can if you'd like.
For the past 224 years, the United States of America has been governed by one document, the Constitution. It can be argued that the most important part of it that involves all of the citizens is the election of our executive office, also known more commonly as the president. In the 2012 election alone, the candidates spent a total of $6 billion to reach only 126 million voters who participated in the election. Obviously, these candidates take this election very seriously, as they should, and so it's our duty to take it just as seriously. It's our civic duty to vote, as you've heard many times probably, but that includes more than just showing up for election day. You need to stay informed, and you can't stay informed if you don't know what's out there. Today I'll be explaining the history of the election, how today's election is, and I'll make you aware of the common criticisms that the election faces. The Constitution that was written in 1787 contained Article 2, which set up the executive branch of the government. Within Article 2, the framers put in Section 1, which said specifically how the election process would take place. In Everything American Government by Nick Ragone, it explains that not citizens but electors would choose the president. Each state would have the same number of electors that they have in Congress representing them, but would have no less than 3. Traditionally, each elector received 2 votes that they would cast for president, and whoever had the most votes would be president, and whoever came in second place would receive the vice presidency. This process was changed, however, with the passage of the 12th Amendment in 1804, which created separate ballots for both the president and the vice president. In addition, it's also set up what would happen should one of the candidates not receive the absolute majority of votes that were needed to win the election, which today is at 270. They said that in this case, the House of Representatives would be given the task and responsibility of voting to see which candidate would get the presidency. Other amendments have been passed over throughout the years, but these are more having to deal with who is elected or who can vote for the election. The 15th Amendment that was passed after the Civil War said that citizens couldn't be denied the right to vote based on race, color, or previous condition of servitude. At this time, though, women weren't considered full-fledged citizens, and it wasn't until 1920 with the passing of the 19th Amendment and after the women's suffrage movement that they gained the right to vote. Finally, and most recently, in 1971, the 26th Amendment was passed that said that voting age would be 18 years old for all citizens. The history of the election and how it hasn't changed very much since that 12th Amendment passed has set precedent for how the election continues to occur today. As soon as one president's election is complete, preparation begins for the next one that will occur in 4 years. Those who wish to run have to start fundraising, building up their campaign team, and networking throughout the country in preparation. Throughout the years leading up to the election, their goal is to influence voters and gain their support in the party that they affiliate with. The 2 parties that appear every single year consistently are the Republicans and the Democrats. Now, it's not until the actual year of the election when the race actually starts to pick up steam then. The American Government textbook published by Prentice Hall explains the primaries and caucuses that are held in each state for each party to choose which candidate they want to represent their party. The primaries are held where the actual citizens get to vote, whereas the caucuses are held where delegates who are chosen get to vote for the candidates. The Iowa caucus and the New Hampshire primary are the 2 most important ones to watch because they're the first ones and they tend to set the momentum for the rest of the campaign season. Whoever wins these has a strong foot going in through the rest of them. Now, the remaining states' primaries and caucuses begin at the conclusion of Iowa and New Hampshire's in March and last throughout the summer. And at the end in August, a nominating convention is held for each party where they will choose the candidate that they will endorse. Once the candidate has received this endorsement from their party, they will begin to tour the entire nation, visiting different states, telling what their platform is, and trying to gain the support of different voters. In addition, during this campaign, there's also 2 main public debates that are very important to watch because it's a chance for citizens to see the unscripted responses that these candidates have to the questions. It's the only time during the entire 4-year process that they'll be put on the spot and don't have something that's already prepared. On election day, Each state follows a winner-takes-all policy. That is, the popular vote, which is the vote of the people, is counted for each state, and whichever candidate receives the most vote, they win all of the electoral votes from that one state. This indirect election process, though, has created some controversy and has been scrutinized heavily over the past years, with some people even calling for reform to it. Since that 12th Amendment was passed, as I mentioned before, over 200 years ago, nothing has been done to change the exact election process. We use the Electoral College system, which by definition is a body of people who represent the United States to formally cast their votes for president. Anyone who's not familiar with how the election works in the United States, especially new voters, might think that the vote they cast goes directly to deciding which person will be chosen as president. This assumption, however, is false. It's the Electoral College and the electorates who vote to decide the presidency. Electors are chosen at each state's convention and are required, they're chosen by each state's convention, and they will vote usually along the popular vote lines of each state, although they are not required to do so by the Constitution. So you may not see the problem with this so far. But take, for example, the 2000 election, where George Bush, who won the presidency, had the 270 electoral votes needed to capture the win. But it was Al Gore who actually had the popular vote of the entire nation. So this is where people really started to speak out. Gallup Research Company published an article after the election that said 2/3 of people since 1944 have wanted some sort of reform to move us away from this indirect election to a direct election by the people. The National Archives Online says that there have been, over the years, 700 proposals to Congress for another amendment or some sort of reform system to change this electoral college. Now, it's easy to see the controversy between different states when you look at who is for and who is against it and why. The states that are for are the smaller states, the ones that have the smaller populations and feel that their voice would be unheard and eliminated if we got rid of the electoral college system and moved to do a direct popular vote. Those who are against it say that this system currently gives too much power to the swing states, which are the ones who change their party affiliation from election to election. They say that these handful of states can decide the entire election for the whole nation. So the issue arises when we could possibly have a president, like in the 2000 election, where a majority of the nation did not support and approve of them, and it's something to keep in mind and consider moving forward. So the presidential election is more than just election day. It's the campaign, it's the debates, it's all of the history that builds up to it. And in order to fulfill our civic duty, we have to be informed of everything that is going on.
Great job.